Hello, welcome back to BSLIVE. In this episode, I want to do a bit of improvisation with SVeet add-on. So basically, I can make it to work with BoxCutter. So if you don't know BoxCutter or SVeet add-on, BoxCutter basically an add-on. It's a paid add-on that's allowing you to do a quick cutting. So I've done this a couple of times in my live noding, something like that, and you can see after I do some cutting, we get a geometry and we have a lot of history. It's a stack modifier history, which is just Boolean, and each one of them has cutter. And the cutter itself is hidden as a wire. So it's a wire because I know if you look at under viewport display, it's showing as wire. So it's pretty basic, but also very powerful. So let's try doing the same thing, but this time we are using something like nodes. So let's create, for example, we can start with a box actually, yeah, and then output's gonna be bmesh. So now we have a box, and this box is something that we can control. I have a feeling, so this is going to be Boolean nodes or something, just give it a title. So this box is not very powerful. I have a feeling this box should be a box MK2 at some point, because you want to be able to kind of scale it as well. So if you use like matrix apply, and this is like applying transform into this guy using the scale, so you can actually in fact scale it like that. So that's if you need that, but on top of that I want to do some some kind of Boolean that's similar similar to BoxCutter, but we're gonna do it using SVeet. So the cutter itself can be a box, of course. Let's try that. So this is a box, and then the viewer bmesh here is a try. It has a different name, delta, and I want to cut the big box using the smaller box, and for that we need a Boolean. And the way we usually do it is by doing this. I don't know if there is like an option like to do Boolean. No, we don't have it, right? I kind of wish we have, because it's a good way to interface. I know there's a guy named Pitiwazoo. I don't know what's his real name, but he's on Twitter and YouTube. He's also have these similar ideas where you work with Boolean and modifier. So what's going on now? This is the little cube, and we still have control, of course. And I want to make this into wire. Okay, so this guy is doing the Boolean. Let me turn on cavity so it's clear. Okay, and this is actually a really powerful way of working. This is exactly like BoxCutter. This is the main original objects, and this is delta is the first cutter. And I kind of want to do it a couple of times. Like this is almost like pretty magical once you get used to it, because we suddenly have a way to stack modifier. So this is all procedural. It's non-destructive, and you can still have control over what you're generating as a cutter. Okay, this is gonna be a cutter. Of course, our box is still, we can kind of scale it in any way we like. Yeah, maybe make it like that. And the cylinder, so the cylinder, let's see if we want to make an array or a cutter. Let's say, okay, this is the main object, alpha still, and then we're gonna do another Boolean. This time we're gonna use she. is going to be also the cutter, and this guy also needs to be wire. Now suddenly we have this. Now you definitely need a bit of familiarity with the nodes and SVeet, but you can see the output is always fewer bmesh for now, and you can do things like an array very quickly. For example, let's say if we use matrix, and yeah, like I'm just moving these objects a little bit. This is in edit mode, and then if we use something like line, plug into the matrix here, so we have a bunch of cylinder. We can do it in y-axis, and then we can center it. So they are separate, right? But I wonder if they are still doing the Boolean. It's only doing Boolean on the first cut, on the first one there. But there's an option here called merge. So that's gonna merge based on the multiple matrix transform that we supply here. So that's actually really powerful, and definitely something that we can use here. So we still have our, so this is going to be our cutter here. So currently the way we interface is slightly weird. We are back and forth between nodes and this guy. With a BoxCutter, you really you have more control. You are mostly working in the object level, and that's actually much more intuitive if you think about it. But we can, at some point I will try to interface between BoxCutter and SVeet. Maybe that's also possible and can be powerful. For now we can try make changes. So I just make, see, I can make and turn that into something like this, and that's already kind of very interesting design. It's very unusual the way that you can do this. Normally you can't. There. So ideally this matrix in also simply just a transform, something that you can adjust over here, something like that. This is more intuitive. It has interface. Yeah, of course you can always do this. In fact, you probably don't need this, and you just work with this box, scale it, whatever, and then you can still adjust the size here. Oh, actually, if you adjust here, the transform is no longer respected. Okay, something that you need to know. Okay, with the cylinder, I mean with the box here, we don't need to start with the box. We can start with anything other than the box. What if I start with a cylinder MK2? This goes in there, and in fact this box should actually be in here. This is our cutter that's a little bit more advanced. So we can really control the box itself. So this is actually possible thanks to Blender's Boolean. So that's the key in here. So that's a cylinder, and we are cutting the cylinder using another cylinder. Not very feasible at the moment. It's probably get a little bit confusing here because we are no longer using box, and we are trying to difference the cylinder with the box and then another cylinder. Slightly tricky. Anyway, let's make cut. So we have a cylinder that's kind of hidden. Okay, that's better. This is better, definitely. So with this, let's say instead of cylinder that's kind of stacked in parallel like that, like an array of cylinder. Let's try to use something like a circle, for example. So this is one way you can use the cylinder, but try using like something like a circle, for example. So you have a like circular array, and then use matrix normal. So circle, location, and normal, and then the output's gonna be this guy. And look what's gonna happen. We can rotate this. Change the radius. Now change the actual size, the height of the cylinder. Change the number of the circle. Now suddenly it makes a bit more sense. Okay, yeah, we can cut it that way. And even so, we have a cylinder, and we're gonna cut it using those cylinders. The box can be somewhere else for now. So do I really need the box? Maybe I don't, but it's make an interesting cut there. And the cylinder here, a better way is actually to have something like this. So matrix apply. So this is the multiple matrices, and this is the vector, and this goes in there. But we need to repeat the polygon. So I guess we can just use matrix deform and slightly offset this guy up. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do, really. So we have a hole there thanks to this cylinder. So that the Boolean is still working, and we have Booleans for the box. And this guy, it seems like we are making like a robot, some kind of robot. Oh no, not this guy. That's a okay. This we can. What's the name of this robot? I've seen it quite often. Okay, I'll try to make this using procedural means, but we can also make a box. This police box. Definitely something that you can make using Boolean. So with this robot, we can continue. So you can see it's suddenly we have ways to do these Booleans and whatnot. In fact, with the box also we can have multiple of the box using line in the z-axis, center it, normalize. Yep, that's interesting. And then enable merge. So I'm updating it using the arrow key, and there you go, voila. We got something, and we can modify the position of this. Nice, very nice. We can have maybe another cylinder and just make another cut. This can be quite elaborate, but remember, for now, limit yourself. Like start with like a master objects, and then you do this Boolean cut, and then start to do the cutting. Suddenly, this is like what is it? I call it before SVeet. How to intercept modifier using nodes. This is actually working really well. Very nice. You can play around with this. In fact, the middle part can be a ring and solidify, maybe. Hi, there's a twist, phase, parallel modifier, and meridians. let's try using random number. So I'm trying, this is probably the last thing I'm gonna do for today. Make it 8. It's gonna be 8, random number, and there you go. Okay, occasionally you're gonna get an error because this is still a Boolean. There's a kind of an error. It's not working, or it's not overlapping. Okay, it's not overlapping, so it's not an error. Maybe I need to extend the cylinder so a little bit deeper. And now we can hide all these. And then, so this is, again, this is 1, and this modifier number 2. I think maybe we should stack it like that. So we understand, we always understand, okay, this is the first one, this is the second one, and this is how we stack it in the modifier kind of way. And we can always change the order. That's also powerful. And we can randomize. This is really a super basic example. Okay, let's do one more time, a cylinder cutter. So it's gonna be Boolean number 3. It's gonna be cylinder mk2. Oops, or just a cylinder for now. Keep it simple. Cylinder, or even can be a ring. So cylinder is always on the floor. If you want to center it, you can use vector drop. See, the cylinder is now centered. It's dropped basically. And let's make it a bit taller. So let's Boolean this with our last cylinder, zeta. And zeta can be a wire and can be hidden. So zeta, there's a zeta in there. We have this number floats, can go into the radius. So there's a zeta that's cutting everything. On top of that, we have cylinder over there. Yeah, like I said, it's like a robot or a UFO even. And yeah, I thought it's kind of super interesting the way we make this. So this is Boolean. So Blender, this is Blender 2.8 official. I don't know how everything node's gonna work in the future, but I think this is actually kind of a preview. It's a very nice way of working. I don't know how currently SVeet calculate the nodes, which one is in order, but it doesn't matter in this case because we are really using modifier, and whatever calculated here is should already be in the scene, and then you do a Boolean as needed. In fact, this is probably a very good example how you can incorporate SVeet in your modeling as a modeling tool. And I'm kind of wondering if we can just use this for BoxCutter. So if you have a cube and you want to cut using BoxCutter, so you can do this cut. Can I cut using this guy? Maybe I can. What's the hotkey for that? D? Is it D? No. So I need to select this guy and then BoxCutter and then D. Okay, D. And we can use custom. And what's the custom objects gonna be? It's gonna be alpha, maybe alpha. There, I just made a cut using our alpha. It's so there is alpha object over here which I can still modify, but I have to modify it in maybe in the object level to get a better result. But not really. It's I can move this guy, and then you can see we just make a cut of this box using this guy. It's quite complex actually, but still work, which is kind of nice. So yeah, there you go. That's a quick look at SVeet nodes and how is this a concept, how we can use it. So the nodes will work. It will intercept the Boolean stack, and you still have control over this guy. And then if you want to interface, you use BoxCutter add-on. All right. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.